Hello, my friends. I've got an awesome episode of Stand Up coming your way. Comedian Todd Barry will join me to talk about his new album. He's never been on the show. He's one of the most legendary comedians in the business of my generation. Very excited to share my conversation with him here today. And if you want to skip the news, that begins at about 24 minutes into today's show. But before we get to that, I've got some news for you. So much to get to. First, in my life, I know a lot of you are very concerned about me and my well-being because of the Yellow Jackets that have burrowed their way into the ground. I've been fighting with them in my front yard for the past few days or so. It's been quite a battle. They, of course, attacked me 2 days in a row, stung me several times, but somehow I survived and went on the offensive myself. It started, of course, with the 2 coatings of spray night after night, but they just kept coming back because they were burrowed deep in the ground. So I did some research. I decided, well, you know what? I'm going to try to flame them out. So I poured a little gasoline on their hole, and I set fire to it. And probably a bush in almost my house last night, but they came back this morning, and so I poured soapy water on them and set up a hornet trap with sugar inside of it, and still they persisted. So tonight I hosed them hard, and then later on when the sun set, I set them on fire one more time, dug them up at the same time. I believe the war is over. I believe I captured, interrogated, and then executed the queen, but then I was told that there are potentially more queens. So I don't know. I'll keep you updated. No stings today, so that's the good news. And now in much less important, but still vitally important news, lots of things that I want to get to. President Biden and the President of Ukraine in New York at the UN General Assembly. The House Republicans are fighting with each other like the children that they are, led by children. And it's like 48 hours, maybe almost 3 days into controversy about the United States Senate dress code. Way too much talk about that. And in addition to that, John Fetterman, who this all began with, apparently, the right-wing conspiracy theorists now, they believe that he has a body double. So we've got that going for us in America. And 65% of Americans in a new poll say they feel exhausted when thinking about politics. Well, I do politics almost every day here on this show. I hope you're not too exhausted, but I will give you a break from it in the conversation, the interview today, my interview with Todd Barry, not too political at all. Always good to take a break, and it was for me today. But I will recap the news for you as I try to Monday through Thursday right here on Stand Up, talking about the most important issues that are most impactful to you, your family, your community, your country, and your planet, not to mention your way of life, your joy of life. We're getting more and more psychological these days. By the way, I'll be interviewing Dan Harris. I'm scheduled to interview Dan Harris, the host of my favorite podcast, one of my favorites of all time, 10% Happier, former ABC News anchor. Dan Harris and I are scheduled to sit down on Monday. I'm pretty nervous and been preparing a lot for that. It's a big deal. He's a very popular podcast host, and I really have benefited a lot from it. So excited for that. But let's look at what happened yesterday in New York. During the gathering of world leaders at the UN General Assembly, President Biden warned that no nation can be secure if we allow Ukraine to be carved up. Let me play a little bit of President Biden yesterday at the UN General Assembly. Unga.
For the second year in a row, this gathering, dedicated to peaceful resolution of conflicts, is darkened by the shadow of war. An illegal war of conquest brought without provocation by Russia against its neighbor Ukraine. Like every nation in the world, the United States wants this war to end. No nation wants this war to end more than Ukraine. And we strongly support Ukraine in its efforts to bring about a diplomatic resolution that delivers just and lasting peace. But Russia alone bears responsibility for this war. Russia alone has the power to end this war immediately. And it's Russia alone that stands in the way of peace, because the Russia's price for peace is Ukraine's capitulation, Ukraine's territory, and Ukraine's children. Russia believes that the world will grow weary and allow it to brutalize Ukraine without consequence. But I ask you this: if we abandon the core principles of the United States to appease an aggressor, can any member state in this body feel confident that they are protected? If we allow Ukraine to be carved up, Is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. We have to stand up to this naked aggression today and deter other would-be aggressors tomorrow. That's why the United States, together with our allies and partners around the world, will continue to stand with the brave people of Ukraine as they defend their sovereignty and territorial integrity and their freedom.
David Rothkopf said that President Biden was in his element. He was widely respected. He was in command of the facts. He took a strong stand. Everyone listening knew that every statement he made was backed up by robust action from U.S. leadership, and action that was his response yesterday to Biden at the UN. We also heard from Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, speaking at the UN General Assembly. I got a clip of that for you as well. He accused Russia of mass kidnapping of tens of thousands of children, calling it genocide. When hatred is weaponized against a nation, it never stops there. Here is some of Zelensky yesterday, dressed in his signature green collared shirt. Republicans in the Senate must be really offended by his lack of formal attire, what with him being a world leader at the UN General Assembly.
The sword example is children. Children. Unfortunately, various terrorist groups abduct children to put pressure on their families and societies. But never before the mass kidnapping and deportation would become a part of the government policy. Not until now. We know the names of tens of thousands of children and have evidence on hundreds of thousands of others kidnapped by Russia in the occupied territories of Ukraine and later deported. The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrant for Putin for this crime. And we are trying to get children back home. But time goes by. What will happen with them? What will happen to them? Those children in Russia are taught to hate Ukraine, and all ties with their families are broken. And this is clearly a genocide. When hatred is weaponized against one nation, it never stops there. Each decade, Russia starts a new war. Parts of Moldova and Georgia remain occupied. Russia turned Syria into ruins. And if not Russia, the chemical weapons would have never been used there in Syria. Russia has almost swallowed Belarus. It is obviously threatening Kazakhstan and other Baltic states. And the goal of the present war against Ukraine is to turn our land, our people, our lives, our resources into a weapon against you, against the international rules-based order. Many seats in the General Assembly Hall may become empty if Russia succeeds with its treachery.
Powerful, dramatic statements from the president of Ukraine, but that's all I've got for you. And a lot more obviously happening in New York at the UN General Assembly to be paying attention to. But that's all I've got for you from there yesterday. Let's head to some other really important issues that I think I'm watching, including the fact that former disgraced president, and now twice impeached, 4-time indicted Donald Trump, said the other day this horrible thing about liberal Jews. And I just really don't want to forget that. I don't want to stop talking about that. He said liberal Jews are the reason that America has been destroyed. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was just such a horrible and dangerous thing to say. And a lot of people are talking about it still, as they should be. And I saw this on CNN yesterday, and I thought it was worth playing. This is Dana Bash, who is sitting next to Christiane Amanpour on the CNN morning show. Dana Bash, of course, is Jewish American. I have no insider information, but I bet you she requested to come on and talk about this issue to make sure that people didn't gloss over this one. The clip begins with CNN's Phil Mattingly.
I've never understood, but I want to read it. It said, just a quick reminder for liberal Jews who voted to destroy America and Israel because you believe in false narratives. Let's hope you learn from your mistakes, make better choices moving forward. Happy New Year. The reason why I don't want to just let this pass as like Trump on social media being crazy, because that's what Trump does on social media, is because I'm trying to think of the construct of if a Democratic lawmaker said that conservative Catholics were ruining the country because of their views. If you're Catholic and vote Republican, you're ruining the country. People would freak out. Yeah. And rightfully so.
And rightfully so. This is, I'm going to borrow Christian's favorite phrase, to be truthful and not neutral here. There is nothing even close to appropriate about what he said. In fact, this is classic Trump trying to divide subsets of America, divide people who are already, he sees that there are not just embers, but there are flames of division within the Jewish community and within American culture when it comes to Israel. It is so incredibly dangerous. I did a whole hour on anti-Semitism growing in America, and a big part of it was, according to expert after expert who looked at the research and looked at the threats and the timelines, Donald Trump saying things like this, pushing the door open a little bit, and white supremacists and people who have been feeling this way for a long time, shoving the door open. And he knows full well that this kind of rhetoric is incredibly dangerous, and he just thinks that it's advantageous to him, and he does it.
And it's terribly dangerous from that political point of view and religious and cultural and social point of view.
Yeah, it's very, very dangerous, terribly dangerous. Dana Bash on CNN with Christian Amanpour, and I thought that was important to play. I thought that was eloquent. And I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget about those comments and just made a big deal of them because it's absolutely horrible. All right, well, Gavin Newsom sat down with Dana Bash on CNN as well, and I thought, listen, this guy is so on point. She's really trying to get him to question Joe Biden and maybe position himself to step in at the last moment. I don't know, but listen to the way that the governor of California talks about both President Biden and his old friend, the Vice President, Kamala Harris.
New CBS News poll shows only 1/3 of American voters think that Joe Biden will stay in office through a second term. I know you are downplaying concerns about his age, but do you believe that voters don't have any reason to be concerned that he would be 86 years old by the end of his second term?
Voters have every right to be concerned, but I remember Bobby Kennedy said it best, that what the world needs are the qualities of youth, not a time of life, but a state of mind, a quality of imagination. I mean this, I couldn't imagine 3 years ago that this president could accomplish so much in such a short period of time. I mean that. If this political season is all about a celebrity, with all due respect, we had a celebrity for 4 years. It didn't go well. And so I want a seasoned pro that knows how to get things done. I'm a little old-fashioned. I want a guy who produces results. And the results are in. It's been a masterclass. There's simply no administration in my lifetime that's been more effective producing more substantive results.
You and Vice President Kamala Harris go way back.
Yep.
You say that you came up together in San Francisco, knew each other.
Before we were in politics.
Before you were in politics. Yeah. I'm sure you saw that former Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, she heaped praise on Kamala Harris, but she declined to say whether or not she thought that the Vice President is the best person to be on the ticket with Joe Biden in 2024. Do you?
Of course she is. The Biden-Harris administration, masterclass in terms of performance. Bipartisan deals on infrastructure, bipartisan deals on guns and debt ceiling, on the chips and science.
She's the best choice.
I mean, by definition, if I think this administration the last 2.5 years has been one of the most outstanding administrations in the last few decades, and she's a member of that administration, she gets to lay and claim credit to a lot of that success. The answer is absolutely.
Wow. Gavin Newsom, what do you make of that? A full-throated endorsement of both of President Biden and Kamala Harris, and took those questions right in stride. I thought that was really interesting. And, how about this? A new Biden-Harris campaign ad just dropped. Thanks to former governor of South Carolina and Donald Trump's former UN ambassador, it's Nikki Haley who is running for president with a Biden-Harris campaign ad.
Well, I think that's it tells you that when you have the most pro-union president and he touts that he is emboldening the unions, this is what you get. And I'll tell you who pays for it is the taxpayers. You know, here, from what I understand, the union is asking for a 40% raise. You know, the companies have come back with a 20% raise. I think any of the taxpayers would love to have a 20% raise and think that's great. But, you know, the problem is we're all going to suffer from this. This is going to cause things to go up. And, you know, this is going to last a while. But, you know, when you have a president that's constantly saying, go union, this is what you get. The unions get emboldened, and then they start asking for things that, you know, that companies have a tough time doing.
Oh, man, I don't know if she realizes how much she just helped Joe Biden with that. I bet you, mark my words, they'll turn that into an ad. And here's something I wanted to play for you. Senior advisor to President Biden, the brilliant Anita Dunn, was on, I don't know where this was, the Midas Touch Network, but I thought this is a pretty good quote from her.
And I think people in this country increasingly are cynical, not just about government and institutions, but about the press. Because of this, I think that they feel like they want to know, where can I get the facts? Where can I find out what's really going on? And I think it does a disservice to people in this country when you get this both sides stuff. And you're right. The shutdown is lending itself to that already. It's who's up, who's down. Can Joe Biden find a way out? Is he winning or losing? When actually their lives that are going to be touched, and there are functions of government that are really important that aren't going to get funded unless the House Republicans come to the table and keep their word on the deal they cut 3 months ago.
Well, I don't think House Republicans are going to be coming to the table anytime soon because they can't even come to their own table. Yesterday was a disaster for House Republicans leadership. They postponed a key procedural vote on a short-term spending bill aimed at averting government shutdown amid opposition from more than 15 caucus members. Here's my congressman, Mike Lawler. He's a Republican. I'm hoping that we can replace him with Mondaire Jones next year when his first term is up and we can gain that seat back. But he himself criticizing other Republicans. In the meantime, by the way, he's voting to impeach President Biden. But I thought this was a pretty telling criticism from Republican Mike Lawler about his Republican colleagues in the House Republican caucus.
This is not conservative republicanism. This is stupidity. The idea that we're going to shut the government down when we don't control the Senate, we don't control the White House. These people can't define a win. They don't know how to take yes for an answer. It's a clown show. You keep running lunatics, you're going to be in this position.
All right, there you go. Mike Lawler criticizing Republicans. We'll see what happens with them. And finally, one more thing I want to play for you. It's actually Howard Stern, a clip of Howard Stern talking about how much he loves vaccines and being woke. And I thought this was perfectly appropriate for this show. I'm really happy to hear Howard talking this way. I'm unsurprised by it, but I think this is important for his audience to hear. Now, you don't have to be a fan. You don't have to like Howard Stern, but that this is pretty powerful and important and well said. And I think everybody can get behind this kind of commentary. It's super reasonable, by the way, and entertaining as always.
I'll play you the clip, but he does say, you know, I'm a big Howard Stern fan and I started, but how he goes, yeah, but Howard is woke now. I hear that a lot, geez. That I'm not good anymore because I'm woke. My whole career I've been hearing.
Well, maybe Metamucil is woke. Stop eating it.
Yeah. By the way, I kind of take that as a compliment that I'm woke. I'll tell you how I feel about it. To me, the opposite of woke is being asleep. And if woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, well, dude, call me woke as you fucking want. I'm not for stupidity. You know, I ran out Friday morning. I was over at CVS. Thank you, CVS. I went over there 9 a.m. and got myself that new vaccine for COVID. Fucking science. This fucking country is so great. You can get it for free. I mean, everyone can get it for free except me. I had to pay for it Because some reason my fucking insurance, they take your insurance card and they go, oh, your insurance for some reason doesn't. I go, I got the shittiest fucking.
How did you wind up with a bad policy? What's wrong with you?
Cost me $300 for me and Beth.
What?
Yeah. No, more. Anyway, the rest of you will not have to pay.
Stop it. No, I've never. They take my information. They say they don't even look anymore because they have me in the file. And they say, has your insurance changed? No. Here's your shot.
I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I didn't care. I wanted it. I got there super early. And I was like the first one. And I got that shot. And I'm like, God bless the United States. God bless the United States. I get every fucking vaccine. Good. And for those of you who think the government's trying to kill you or implant chips,
or
go
they're
ahead with
chipping you. I don't know why they're chipping you.
Go for those conspiracies. But I am woke, motherfucker, and I love it. I want to be awake. I want to read legitimate news sources. Here's how woke I am. I believe the election was not rigged. Because
did you hear Trump's latest statement about how he decided the election was fake? Was that he just felt that way?
Yeah,
and
he had a feeling.
Listen to his lawyers. His lawyers said to him, "You lost the election." He said, "I didn't trust them. I didn't like them. I didn't respect them. I decided that the election was rigged."
So I'm woke, man. I think that's a compliment.
Yes, it is a compliment, Howard Stern. There you go. I like it. All right, well, hope you don't mind me playing that and the rest of those clips before I get to my guest, comedian Todd Barry. Do just want to mention that I think it's great news. We've got some great news here. Good news. It's from Pennsylvania yesterday, where the governor there, who... keep your eyes on this guy. He's a smart guy, and a lot of people are talking about him potentially running for president. But they yesterday passed automatic voter registration. There are about 1.6 million Pennsylvanians who are eligible to vote but aren't registered. And now they have what he calls a safe, secure, streamlined way to be able to get them to register and participate in democracy. It's a big deal to have that automatic voter registration, and a lot of people were talking about that yesterday. So I thought I'd mention that story as well, because it's a good story, and that's good for democracy. And when we talk so much about worrying about democracy, I think it's really important to tout the good news that yesterday Governor of Pennsylvania said that they are switching to automatic voter registration. That's going to make right-wingers' head explode, but it potentially adds tens of thousands of voters to the poll because, of course, voter participation is one of the key strengths to democracy. All right. Well, that is the news segment. That's what I've got for you. I hope you appreciated it. I put a lot into it today, as I do pretty much every Monday through Thursday, and I aggregate what I think are the most important stories and clips and try to get them out there for you. So if you don't like it, let me know. If you do like it, let me know. Let me know what you like and don't. Always want to hear from you. Thanks to everybody who sends those emails, standupwithpete@gmail.com. If you haven't ever, maybe today's your day, huh? Also, if you're not a paid subscriber, maybe today's your day, or maybe you want to pay more, as a couple of you recently have, and I really, really appreciate that. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. All right, now let's do something a little different. I came up in the New York City comedy clubs in the late 90s and early aughts with comedians like Todd Barry, just a generation or a few years ahead of me. So I was really excited when he reached out to me and asked to come on the program to promote his new stand-up special produced by All Things Comedy, which is Bill Burr and Al Madrigal's comedy production company. It's called Domestic Shorthair. It was taped at the Den Theater in Chicago, and Todd touches on lawyer hecklers, TV doctors, learning how to cook on a TikTok during the pandemic, Airbnb listings, and so much more everyday stuff that's so funny. More links to find out about Todd in the show notes, of course, but he's one of the most respected comedians in all of comedy. I think that's the best thing that I can say about him. He's been on television multiple times. I can't list all. He's been on all the late night shows. He's done stand-up. He's been in a few films, and we talked a little bit about that, how he wants to do a lot more. He's performed at every important comedy festival. Of course, all of his albums are available on his website, and they're all great. Everything he does is. And this is a different kind of conversation. It's just two guys talking, really. But I was catching up with Todd, and I was a little nervous, and it was a little awkward at times, but I think that's entertaining, too. So I hope you like this. It's a little bit of a departure from the norm, but I was excited to have Todd on and promote his work. I highly recommend you listen to his stand-up. It's so good. Let's start with one of my favorite bits from the special, and then we jump into the conversation. Here he is, Todd Barry at the Den Theater in Chicago from his new special, Domestic Short Hair. You can watch it on YouTube.
I was talking to a guy in the audience, asked him what he did for a living. He goes, I'm a cabinet salesman. I was like, do you like it? He's like, love it. I was like, what do you love about being a cabinet salesman? He goes, I like having dinner with my customers. Oh, I didn't know that was a wine and dine situation. Well, Todd, your cabinets are all installed. What do you think? I love them. I'll put my Cocoa Puffs in there really soon. Well, Todd, now that they're all installed, I guess it's bistro time, right? Time for the traditional post-cabinet installation celebratory dinner. What are you hankering for? I'm sorry, I'm having dinner with the guys that steam clean my drapes. It's been quite a day. Breakfast with my exterminator. Happy hour drinks with my plumber. You know, maybe you can have lunch tomorrow. You know what? I'm going to apple picking with the guys who reek out of my bathroom towel.
Oh, there he is. One of my all-time favorites. Todd Barry, everybody. Wow.
I didn't know I was going to do this angle. I would have cleaned up a little bit.
Well, you look great from any angle. I'm just so happy that you're on my podcast. I know that this is slumming it for you, so I'm very excited to have you.
I know. I just did a show with the Beatles last night. So.
I figured that you had some. You sandwiched me in between two legends. How are you, man? Congratulations on another.
Thank you.
Another special, and just seriously, congratulations on your consistency and longevity of your career. You are one of the most consistently funny, successful comedians in my mind of all time.
Oh, thank you very much. Haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, it's been far too long, Todd Barry. I got to get back in the city, and hopefully I'll bump into you there.
Yeah.
Are you still performing at clubs in the city whenever you can?
Yeah, I don't necessarily do like 4 spots a night or anything. I try to do one. And I've been doing these little bar shows and shows out in Brooklyn. And
what would you say your following is like now? I just taped a special in Chicago. Why? Like people, it's always like Todd Barry's a smart comedian. He's a funny comedian. But I mean, you've been doing this long enough to have an audience that I think spreads across a lot of demographics. Like who comes to see Todd Barry? Who are the Todd Barry fans? Just geniuses of comedy?
Geniuses of comedy, people really discerning. They're usually a very polite, thoughtful bunch. And last few shows I did, I've actually had like this kind of family thing, which not necessarily like the way a ventriloquist, Jeff Dunham might have, but like people like, hey, well, I brought my mom, that kind of thing. It's like, all right.
Like
she's going to be bored. But
3 generations of an entire family that love are like the Beatles.
That means I'm old, man.
Well, old, but like there's a lot of comedians who are old and can't get a gig. You're old
that's true.
Doing exactly what you want to be doing, according to me.
Yeah, so I mean, they're usually slightly nerdy, and I don't know how old they are. I skew a little younger than I am, which I have no choice, I guess. But then it's people around my age also.
I love that you have some COVID material related. You hit.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because I feel like you're not a divisive comedian ever. Like I feel like no matter what people's hardcore moral beliefs are, if they like comedy, they're going to enjoy you. But you also, I've always felt like you get away with, or you don't make any secret of your morals and values, even within your comedy. That's what I feel.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, I would never want to be preachy, but I don't think I get to that level.
How can you have an opinion on anything related to COVID, which you did on vaccines, on masks, and something else about COVID that was, I think, a huge thing. And you just stated your general approach to your behavior, and still people will react to you, I'm sure. Not in the audience, but like in comments and shit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some people in the comments for those jokes were like, well, these are I mean, the special was filmed over a year ago. It took a while to come out, but then a lot of people are like, yeah, there are COVID jokes, but they're funny COVID jokes. But yeah, I think there's some people, if you just show any sort of slightly pro-mask opinion, they're going to find something like they can't even enjoy a joke.
How do you feel today when you see someone wearing a mask, say, outside?
I laugh in their fucking face, man. What's with the face typer, man?
You go right on the attack. It's just that's exactly what I thought you would do.
I point. I go, you don't need that, brother. Freedom. Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty maskless lately for the most part, but
the thing about the mask is I can be annoyed if I wanted to be that somebody's wearing a mask outside in the middle of the woods, but that's probably my issue, is my feeling. Like if you
I mean, yes. It's like if they're saying no, you have to also wear a mask outside in the woods, then there's a problem, but their masking is not, I guess you get it.
You've also taken a really controversial approach to baseball catchers in masks. Why are you anti that?
And Halloween. I don't like Halloween masks either.
I've heard you rail against firefighters for...
Don't say that, man.
Their coats. Why are you against fireproof coats?
Yeah, I'm against any sort of protection.
Right. I heard you made fun of a scuba diver for having an oxygen tank. That seemed like out of line.
Seatbelts. You wear a seatbelt around me, man. Forget it.
You don't even like your passengers.
Right. Hopefully that drive isn't going to be very long, because it's going to feel very long regardless.
Your crowd work is apparent even in this new special.
There's a little chunk or two, yeah.
Yeah, and I just love it. I mean,
oh yeah.
Do you ever take any of those out? Do you ever edit much of these specials, because they look like it's just?
Oh yeah, I cut out a good amount of that. I cut about. I mean, I probably might have even, because at some point I realized, this is going on YouTube. It could be 40 minutes. There's no. I think this hard hour thing, it's not necessarily. I think that sort of a little out the window, because it's like, what difference does it make? 40 minutes to me is plenty. Although this is 50 minutes, so that's plenty. But yeah, I definitely cut stuff out. Like that. Just sometimes you just see a joke, you like do a joke, and you're like, I've never enjoyed doing this joke, and I feel this is not a good joke, and I still do it even though it works. But then you get rid of it.
I wonder if Todd Barry ever wants to or wanted to do anything but comedy. You seem like one of the most pure comedians of all time. Obviously, you've done a lot of different things in our business, but in terms of, you never stopped doing comedy. I mean, you were on Sesame Street, I recall.
I was on Sesame Street. I was in The Wrestler, which I tend to remind people from time to time.
Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang. I mean, we could be here all next 5 minutes talking about my acting credits. We could be here all till now, about now. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't. When I was a kid, I never wanted to be a comedian. I knew I wanted to be in show business, but I never wanted to be a comedian. And I just tried it. And I don't know. I guess I'm doing it because I'm fairly okay at it.
Well, you're one of the best at it, in my opinion. But I mean,
that's what I meant. But
my question is, and I'm somewhat projecting, because my career has taken all kinds of different trajectories. I only wanted to be a comedian, and then when I became a dad, that's when I was like, I don't want to be on the road as much. Right. How can I stay home? And got into warm up and radio and other things. But I feel like you obviously still love it. You love traveling. You love going to new places, meeting new people, performing. I mean, that's my assumption.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to show up in, a town, and there's like whatever crowd I get, a couple hundred people, maybe less, maybe more, depending. And then you're just like, it just feels like I always felt that I never really liked them. I never understood comics who were like, I never want to go on the road. It's like, you just want to do 10-minute sets in New York for the rest of your life. I mean, I could see the appeal of that, because 10 minutes, sometimes that's plenty that's all I want to do is 10 minutes. But I mean, it's not, I just always thought, like, if you put out a movie, would you want it showing in one city, or would you want to play it would you want it shown everywhere?
Let me ask a deep psychological cut to Todd Barry. Now that I have you on my show, I can ask you whatever I want to ask you, and you can answer it however you want to answer it.
Okay.
What role, if any, does like your own sense of your own ego play? Because to me, I think that you are one of the comedians who every great comedian knows. Like the most famous comedians in the world, all of them know and like and respect you. And I would argue, like, I never saw you stirring anything up. Like, I don't know if you had have any enemies or if you had problems with people. They certainly are private, or you don't share that because you seem too classy to. But like, does that matter to you? How much does it matter to you that everybody that has had any kind of success knows and respects you and yours?
I mean, I think that's kept me going a little bit. It's just I'm not saying just everyone loves me and knows me, but a lot of people, a lot of good comics, like the support of comics and sort of a feeling of respect has always been a great thing for me.
Yeah.
And I've always, like, I love when I go on the road and like the local comedy scene comes out and they're in the back and then you chat with them after and answer their questions.
Are you, or have you ever been a dick to other people, much less comedians?
I mean, I've been imperfect. I've probably lost my patience, but to other comedians, definitely not. There's always times where people can misunderstand your tone or something, and you say something kind of jokey, and it's like, I can see why they didn't think that was jokey because they don't know me. But for the most part, I think I'm fairly lovable. But
yeah, no, I mean, that's your reputation. It's always been my perception. When I was starting out, I would be there almost every night I could be when you were there at Stand Up New York, especially because I lived in that neighborhood. But then eventually, I got to be on stage at shows with you, hopefully earning some semblance of your respect. But the point is, you were always nice to me. Like the third time you saw me, you recognized me and knew I at least wanted to be a comic, and you were kind to me. And I will never forget that. But that's obviously not true of a lot of comedians who just, are more insecure or just mean or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is just who you are before you,
Yeah.
Because people say, I met this huge star and they were nice. It's because because you were nice to them and they were nice back to you.
Right.
There's sort of like in this expectation, like, hey, they were nice. Like they don't have to be nice anymore.
Well, I'm always irked by the celebrities or successful people who are nice to you because you too are recognizable celebrity or successful. Like when I was at Sirius and you have these people come in, big name, famous people all the time coming in the studio, always really nice to me, but you'd notice the difference when they would be shitty to somebody they were with or like one of your producers. It's like, of course you're nice to me. You're on my show or whatever.
Right. And I have the control of what I say to you. And
right.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like club owners or bookers who like are very nice to me. And I'm like, man, I'm not sure how they treat younger comics.
Yeah, of course. Or women.
Yeah.
Love Todd Barry. Let me go assault somebody.
But yeah, so I mean, I think sometimes I might be misinterpreted by audience members because I'm sarcastic, and I think that might come across. And I'm also socially awkward. So.
Socially awkward how?
I mean, I might just be like uncomfortable talking to a stranger sometimes. It's not. I'm not like someone who's like I could roll with any conversation. You know what I mean? So if someone comes on strong, or I perceive they come on strong, I might be a little like retreat, and then they might think I don't like them or something when I probably don't like them. But
well, that's kind of fortuitous because this is the part in every episode of Stand Up where I come on really strong.
Oh shit! And I slam my laptop closed. But I'll be nice to you as long as you continue to host a show that I can be on to promote stuff. So.
That's like one of my favorite jokes of all time of yours is something about a woman coming over to your apartment. And I believe she asks if you don't mind if she smokes a cigarette in your apartment.
Oh, that's that joke was like, I'm a militant anti-smoker. I don't let people smoke in my apartment. Let me rephrase that. I don't let men smoke in my apartment.
That's right.
Yeah. That was a pretty good joke.
That was my favorite because it's kind of like what you just said about being here. Like, thanks for coming over. I'm here on the show. I'll be polite. I'm glad you're in my home, and I'll be polite and let you do whatever you want to do. It's kind of your actual personality. Because you're a good person.
Thank you.
What did you do? What did Todd Barry do, answering the third person, during the COVID, during lockdown? I mean, how did you do? What did you do? What did he do? Sorry.
burned through more TV and movies than I've ever even considered. Just any, Lithuanian detective series or something. Like, 3 seasons? Let's do it. Oh, I didn't know they did TV in Luxembourg. Yeah, let's watch this guy. And yeah, I mean, I did a lot of that and a lot of it's very sad. Just like a lot of sad, eating it, because I eat out alone a lot, and I just it's a little sadder with that. Those weird, is this outdoor shed really sitting outside? Because it doesn't feel like it. It feels like sitting. It feels like sitting inside, and I'm not. And then you're like, oh, maybe I can go to this restaurant at 4 p.m. when there's no one there, and then things opened up, and I ripped the mask off, and I was like, yeah. But it was rough, man. But
did you struggle at all during that time, like not being on stage, especially, or not any other normal thing that we all were struggling with? I
mean, I found there was a good amount of outdoor shows, but I mean, I definitely went longer stretches than I'd ever gone without performing, and also those outdoor shows sometimes were just I mean, I appreciated them, but you're just I'm walking through this park, looking for this park on the FDR. I'm trying to find this park, and you just kind of come across this place, and there's 50 people sitting there. It's oh, okay, this is fun, but it's still weird, kind of gloomy.
We used to joke about a bad show or a hell gig or a bad venue was any number of variables about why the audience couldn't hear or see you, the venue, where you're at. I once stood on a milk crate at the end of a dive bar in a bad bar in Detroit for 9 drunks at a bar. It was a bad gig, but the worst gig, or the least fun, or the most miserable I ever had, was when I did stand-up during lockdown at a parking lot outside where the audience was in their cars. That wasn't...
Oh, yeah, I never did one of those, because they got that horn,
Well, you just had no idea. You had no idea of timing or if anything was hitting or where to go. You feel an audience and you kind of can go where and with them, but you didn't feel any energy. It was so lonely.
Yeah, it's did you do a lot of Zoom shows? Because I did a bunch of those, Zoom. I did Zoom crowd work shows.
That I did. I couldn't fathom going up and try to do material, but then I started getting invited to do hybrid talks, and I was like, you can do crowd work on Zoom, and you could do even better crowd work because you don't have to ask about them. You can just look at their space and ridicule.
Right. I did a few of those, and I was actually able to make some money doing them, which was nice, but it was always weird, and I found them more draining than a live show. I would finish up and I'd be like, oh my God, you should turn. And it's also just weird. You turn you look at your coffee maker in the corner, it's I'm doing this in my kitchen or something. And then, and then 10 minutes later, you're at a restaurant eating by yourself, just after you did this show where people from India woke up at 4 a.m. to watch it.
Were there any other super weird ideas or gigs that you tried during then, experiments?
I mean, you ended up the guy would be like, oh, I'll give you a little pocket money to do this birthday party. And normally I'd be like, yeah, that's a big money gig. But let's do it. But I did sort of adjust and sort of realize that the stakes were pretty low. If it was 6 people on a couch watching you from Kansas City or whatever. And if you bomb, what's bombing in that situation, really?
I mean,
half the 3 of them didn't like a joke. All right.
The worst part about bombing is seeing the people or knowing the people after the show. God forbid they know you in real life. God forbid you have to see them if you don't know them in real life. Or God forbid you're stuck on a cruise ship with them. But if it's a Zoom show, you can just close your computer and never have to talk to them again.
Yeah. I might go all Zoom now that we're talking about.
Hey, what role? I have no idea what kind of financial empire you've created for yourself. My understanding is that you don't have kids, and I wonder, I don't know you that well, but you don't seem enamored with material things. I mean, some comics, they want to have, drive around and be seen in a way. You always seem like you just want to be a good, great, well-respected comedian enough that you can keep doing this for people that love what you're doing. But do you think about, does money drive you a great amount? Obviously, you're not going to do something for an insulting amount unless you really want. But how much do you care or motivated by money?
I care to a certain extent. And so if I get a gig that pays extra well, like, ooh, this is fun.
Sure.
And so I'm not anti-money, but I'm not like, I got to do anything to make money, even if it doesn't feel right or something. But yeah, I mean, I have a fairly nice apartment. You can't see the big windows, but I'd have to flip the laptop around. But
things that matter to you or what? Like materialistically, you seem, again, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but you don't seem like that materialistic about stuff and things.
No, I mean, I've never been like a gadget guy. Like, and it's like if I get this phone, I wear it out for 4 years or something. But
right.
So
golf.
Yeah, I mean, I spend my money on food at restaurants where I would say I waste money, and my coffee habit, which is not like lots of coffee, but I like coffee shops. So I'll go to those sometimes 2-3 times a day. And that's, that could be $20 a day if you. So I definitely am not like, I will spend my money in ways that make me happy, and some vacations I take lately.
What is something, is there anything that you wish you had, but you just don't want to spend money on it? Like, to me, you seem like you might, if anything, collect some kind of, album or some kind of piece of art that you might have. Like, you don't, again, seem like you're, you care about Dolce & Gabbana, much less you like talk about coffee and food.
Well, I got my eye on one of their bags now.
You do, I figured.
It's $45,000. I can't wait. It's a little pricey, but I'm going to treat me on this one. No, I just, what was your question?
Anything that any item or experience that you wish you could have, but you're like, too expensive.
I mean, I think a nicer apartment, like a loft or something. I mean, I'm semi-lofty now, but it's something even bigger, I guess. So something like that. And it'd be great to fly first class every time I get on a plane. But yeah, I mean, and vacations and mainly food and restaurants. And yeah, that's about it.
You've always lived in New York
I lived in Florida for 15 years or so before I moved. I was born in New York, then I moved to Florida because my dad's company got reassigned, or they relocated. So then we all moved to Florida. Then I moved back to New York in '89. I'm 115 years old.
And you've been doing comedy almost 30 years, right? Or
over 30 years, 35, over 35 years. Yeah. It's insane, right?
I mean,
same fucking thing every day.
Not at all. I mean, that's the thing about you is you've put out such a body of work. I remember 100 years ago, Bill Burr said, before he had a body of work, I go, what do you want to do with your career? Like, what's the ultimate? And he's like, I just want to have a body of work, man. And it's like, that's a pretty respectable thing. And that's exactly what you've done, I think.
Yeah. His company produced my special, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, like I said,
there's some part of his body of work.
You are you and Al Madrigal and Bill Burr.
Yeah.
They're coming, which is, they got good taste, man.
Yeah, man.
So when I'm sorry, did you want to ask me a question?
No. I only care about me. But.
I'm sorry. Did you have something
you
wanted to?
You want to put some balance in this conversation, or
no,
do you just
it's
want
an interview? You're my guest.
Yeah,
I'm really happy to have you. I hope that like I said, you've always been one of my favorite comics. You've always been good to me. You've always been one of those guys who's like, I wish I knew him better. I wish I could be better friends with him. And but that's not. It doesn't work out that way in life. I feel. No,
and it never will. No,
you're basically like, seriously, is this conversation almost over?
No, I'm enjoying this. I've been enjoying doing the podcast lately to promote the special because it's like I don't get a lot of conversations during the day, really.
Do you think, is there anything, I do want to ask you one, because what I talk about here mostly in the show is like, my editorial choice has always been, since I started the show a million years ago, like what are important things that matter, that impact people's lives? And those are kind of the subjects that I generally talk about. Like, to you, what is there anything that motivates you, any issue or topic or thing that you really feel passionate about, given the way that the world is? Or do you just...
I mean, I have my opinions on things, and we probably agree on a lot of them, but I also am very, like, politically, I kind of like, I just never want to seem dumb, And there's sometimes you'll hear someone speak and you're like, I agree with the stand you're taking here, but you're dumb. and you know like this much about what you're talking about. And so I try to keep, I mean, I definitely have opinions on Trump and everything, but I'm not sure. I forgot what your question was.
Well, no, I hear what your answer is. You have humility and you don't feel the need to be an expert.
I mean, as far as political views and everything. And
well, then my main question is, do you feel about the same question a lot of comedians get these days, that comedy, the world has changed, affecting comedy negatively in a way that you can't do and say what you want to say in most places? I
mean, my act is pretty tame, but also I think there's, the comics that are like controversial are working, the ones that aren't are working. There's
yeah.
It's not like there's this one comedy club and everyone has to work there and you have to have the owner's, stance on things. So you find your people, and there's right-wing comics and there's left-wing comics, and if they all work hard, they can have a career. So I've never been like I said, my act is kind of tame. It's not really, I don't really like, whoa, don't rock the boat with your,
But do you think that there's been like in any way an atmosphere where someone has been, quote, canceled that hasn't been able to kind of, like, I'm watching Louis C.K. or so many other comedians who went through some controversies. Shane Gillis, I just watched his special. That whole controversy he went through years ago with Saturday Night Live. These guys seem to be doing really well to me, and there's just seemingly more consequences sometimes with some of the things you say. But I mean, for the most part, the guys who've been through, some controversy mostly seem to rebound pretty fine.
There's definitely people who rebound on a certain level or completely rebound. I mean, Shane Gillis, I think he's at top of the heap as far as like, I don't think he has many complaints about being, I don't know him that well, but I mean, he's doing great is what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, there are people who bounce back, but I think there's probably people, maybe not necessarily comedians, but someone makes a bad joke in a work environment, they get canned. Yeah,
that's different. Are you like me outraged by how many non-white, non-male comedians seem to be getting opportunity this day and age, cutting into our stage time and money?
You're being facetious. I want everyone. Let's be diverse as possible. Yeah, I have no problem.
When we started, to be serious, like I started maybe 10 years after you did, but like it was mostly white guys or black guys, some women, a lot of Jewish people, some out gay people, some not out. But like now there's like tons of Middle Eastern comedians, tons of Indian, like you name it. And there's really successful, famous people in almost like every ethnic category or every sexual orientation. Like there's a lot more, maybe there's a lot more opportunity, it would seem, that to succeed.
It seems so. I mean, I think there's definitely more opportunity for marginalized groups too. Am I phrasing that correctly?
Yes. Don't say minorities anymore, though. I've been scolded by that, which actually I argued with this very smart black woman, because I'm not you and I argue about everything. And she was like, stop saying minorities. It like cheapens us. I was like, it's a way to point out that you're marginalized. And she embarrassed me with that. I was like, all right, you know what? You make a good point about being a human and not being called a minority. Okay. You know what? I think I changed my mind.
Well, I hope I've humiliated you also a little bit.
Yes, for sure. Without a doubt. I feel, as always, put in my place. So folks should go watch the special on YouTube right now. I mean, like when you put yourself out there on the YouTube, you put yourself out there to be called, you name it, everything. How's that going? Hopefully it's killing and getting.
It's actually, I'm pretty good about not reading comments, but I have looked at some of these and I've had done I would call it a comment scan, where I kind of go boop, 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 and I see like 4 good ones. I'm like, all right, if I keep digging. But yeah, I found in general, I try to avoid that, looking at comments, because it's just like, I realized logically what's in this for me. Like the Strokes are nice, not the band. I mean, they like the Strokes of your ego. But if then there's always that person who, there's negative stuff, who wants to read that, I mean,
it's just a weird thing that you see a comment and it can affect you when it's from a person that you don't know and probably wouldn't like or respect, but you're here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would look at that. I used to find ways of dealing with that, like on Twitter or something. I'd look at the guy's profile, like, Oh, this guy's tweeting at Alec Baldwin all day. Okay. 79 tweets to Alec Baldwin. Okay, I get it.
Well, then you feel
so maybe this guy's, I shouldn't worry about this guy. But.
Well, you're in good company. I think it's
yeah.
It's Alec Baldwin and Todd Barry who he's got a real target on. I think that's pretty good. That's success in my book. Speaking of which, what is anything is left for you? Is there anything that you haven't done in this business that you'd like to do? Like, as far as I can tell, as a stand-up comedian, you've accomplished everything you could possibly accomplish.
I'd like to, I'd like to get a part in a movie that's kind of meaty.
Acting is something that you really are into then.
I've done it, and I've definitely done it, and I miss it when I don't do it. I mean, sometimes when I do it, I'm like, just the generic complaints that actors have, just waiting around and stuff like that, which boo-hoo, right? But poor actor has to be in a trailer where there's unlimited free food at a table 5 feet away from him.
Someone doting on your literally on your face.
So I'd like to do I wouldn't mind being on location somewhere, go film a movie in New Mexico or something. And I have a screenplay that I'm trying to get going.
Anything you can say about your screenplay, or you don't want to give anything away?
I don't want to.
All right.
I don't want to jinx it.
Well,
but
it would, if you mentioned it here, it'd probably get sold, but whatever.
You have a high hit rate for selling screenplays, right?
I've sold so many screenplays on this week, I think, on this
Didn't
show.
the Matrix, the whole Matrix series started, Aaron?
Thank you for the proper, somebody's a fan of my promotion of screenplays. Well, I hope that that happens. I mean, it seems like nothing is going to happen for anybody in these. I work at John Oliver's show, and it's like we've been off since April, and no matter what, first the writers' strike and then SAG. What is your take on how much longer that happens, or what do you hear from friends in the business?
I kind of just take little random opinions, and I'm hearing a lot of it's not ending soon. Right. That's kind of what I'm hearing from people. I've heard April, but I mean, it's also, you quote one person who's just speculating. So.
What about your podcast? It's on hiatus.
It's been on
everything.
Oh, really?
Do and why don't you continue to do that regular?
Because honestly, I mean, going back to your money question, I just wasn't getting paid to do it really, and I hadn't found a way to really make more than a tiny amount of money doing it. But I enjoy doing it. But also, I mean, well, I don't have to tell you this, but just you get a guest, you do one, you pull one off, hey, that was good. We pulled that off, got them, they showed up. We had a and they're like, oh, I got to find another one for next week. And it's unless you bank 30 episodes or something, it's just fuck. It's relentless.
I do it because I love it more than anything I've ever done. That's I love talking to people, and I love it way more than comedy. And
oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I loved comedy for the hang and for the time on stage, but there is so much about it that didn't contribute to my happiness. And I just felt like I was never, going to be great. I was always going to be really good, and I was always going to do well. And I was like, I don't know. I wanted to try to, make more of an impact somehow. And talking to smart people, to me, is more satisfying and rewarding than just comedy.
Couldn't you parlay your serious fame to touring?
Oh, believe me, I tried. Yeah. I mean, if I was selling out theaters or even 500 seats on a regular basis, I would definitely be out there. I just came back from Iowa City. I had a great gig. I loved doing it.
That's a cool city. I've been there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just hard. But I mean, to me too, having kids and actually loving my kids and wanting to be around them, my daughters, they're now 18 and 6. So it may change, and I may hit you up and be like, do you want someone to open for you that you don't really like? And then, I mean, I might want to go back out, but I was just more satisfied with being around them. And I just thought, even if I'm Lewis Black on tour with a bus, if I'm not with my kids, I'm not happy. So no matter what success was, that was how I felt about it. And I got
that's completely admirable.
I knew you would say something like that, but there was I don't mind naming them. I worked at Sirius with Brewer and Corielli. At the time, I was kind of not doing as much stand up. I just moved out of the city. They would ridicule me. You're not doing comedy anymore. They would just beat me up, and it hurt my feelings so badly. You have so much respect for comedy. You want their respect. But at some point I was like, maybe you don't love your kids. I don't know. But
but isn't there a part of you like kind of wants a little break? Like the road is like, I'm not around my kids. And
Honestly,
not that you don't love them, but
it's funny. Like I want to write a joke about like I don't think I've ever been annoyed by my children. Like I always want to be around them, and I don't think that's normal. But I don't know. I have fun with them all the time, even when they were little.
So you don't take vacations without them, or?
I do. Yeah, I do. But I miss them probably after a certain period of time. They don't. But the thing is, they're older now. Now they don't want to. You know, it's different. So they don't want to hang out with me. So now
you're like, Dad, you can go on the road.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hint, hint.
Another thing that people may or may not know, well, if they're fans of Todd Barry, they know. If they follow him on social media, if they listen to his act, you're a cat person. Explain yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you really like your cat.
I love my cat, man. She drives me batshit, but I do love her. She woke me up this morning. I wish she would come over here.
Bring her over. Have you always been a cat person? What's her name?
Her name is Michaeline. It's a fancy name that she had at the ASPCA, and I kept it.
Oh, I like it. All right.
Yeah, sweet, right? Supermodel name. She's in the window right now. I could risk turning this around, but
she's going to jump.
Yeah, but yeah, so she's over there now. Yeah, I have a cat and a girlfriend too.
Wow.
I got it all, man.
That's fair. How long you been with the lady?
Almost 2 years.
Wow. Very nice. Did you meet her through comedy?
Yeah, I did.
She was like, saw you perform? Was she already a fan?
Apparently I'd hung out with her and her boyfriend like 20 years ago on the road. And like after a show, I went to get a drink and I totally forgot. But then she came to New York. She was living in New York at the time. It's kind of a long distance relationship. But yeah, so she just came to one of the Fat Black Pussycat shows and we were talking and then the rest is history. That's how I met my cat as well.
Oh, at a show.
That was a huge comedy
thing with the cat 20 years ago as well. Well, I'm happy for you. 2-year relationship is a good thing, if you want it to be, I suppose.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to ask you, and you might not indulge in this, but I like doing this. I've been doing this lately because when I do perform, I don't have as much material anymore because I'm not out and I'm just not in that mode. But one thing I started doing is telling a little bit more stories. And because my career has allowed me to be in some weird spaces with some super famous people, I've started telling stories about like my time hanging out with somebody. You have a lot of famous friends, I'm sure. Can you?
Oh God, do I?
Can you share any surreal story with our audience about just what it's like for Todd Barry hanging out with this person or that person? I mean, some of these people you're probably pretty good friends with, but have you ever been in like one of my stories about like I was at Dick Cavett's house hanging out with Christopher Walken. I'm sure you have a million of those types of you are in this room with this person.
I do actually have. I mean, I did a screenplay reading that my agent said, do you want to read the screen? There's a reading at this, I don't know, other agent's office, and maybe they'll give you a part if you do the reading. And I walk in the conference room and it's like Christopher Walken, Alan Alda, and it was just surreal because I got there first because I'm always early. And then I think Christopher Walken came in. It's just me and Christopher Walken in a conference room. It's like, hi, I'm Chris. Hey, yeah, I know who you are, man. But yeah, so that's a Christopher Walken specific hangout story. But I mean, trying to think if there's any I mean, it's fun to sort of. First of all, I don't always hang out with famous people, but I sure try. I try my best to limit it to famous people. But it's fun hanging out with someone who's more famous than you because then you're just kind of like, so let you get annoyed, but I don't know. I'm glad. I get recognized from time to time. Just got recognized in Madrid, but it's always an American who's visiting or something.
I love that. I mean, that must be nice.
Yeah, but it's also. I mean, I'm pretty. I fly under the radar pretty good. I don't have to like close Macy's down around Christmas, so I could shop without being bothered.
Who's the most famous friend that you regularly hang out with? Jerry Seinfeld, Tig Notaro? What do you hang out with at the pool?
I mean, I hung out with Chris Rock probably and Sarah.
They're Silverman. See, that's how they do it, folks. They just get the first name.
Chris and Sarah. C and S are people I hang out with. Yeah, but I mean, some of these, not Chris Rock, but Sarah I knew before she was famous.
Right.
I mean, that's not like the fake friendship I have with Chris Rock. It's real.
Well, I could talk to you all day, man, about this and anything else. I'm really happy to see you. I'm happy to see that you're out touring, that you got this special on YouTube. Everybody should go watch that right now, as I did this morning. I laughed my ass off at it. I'll play another clip going out. But ToddBarry.com, half joking tour. See him I'll read the dates after I say goodbye to you. You know where you're gonna, I think you know where you're going to be.
All right, man.
Thank you so much, Todd.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Of course, man.
I read somewhere that the most marked up bottle of wine on a restaurant's wine list is the second cheapest. Reason they do that is got to be on a date, too embarrassed to buy the cheapest wine, picks the second cheapest, and gets destroyed. Probably the best thing I've ever read in my entire life. It's like, who can we screw over here at the restaurant? How about a guy looking for love who's also on a budget? That's why I hired you, PJ. You're an idea man. See, this bottle of Pinot Noir costs us $1.50. Let's go $600 on this one.
Oh, yeah. Todd Barry, everybody. ToddBarry.com to see all of his dates. And go watch the album at All Things Comedy on YouTube. I hope you liked that conversation. It was a little bit different from the norm, but when Todd reached out, I could not say no. Talking to one of the legends that I came up watching and admiring and respecting. Really good guy, really funny, talented guy, and a great live performer. I've always loved his style. So hopefully you enjoyed our conversation. And I will be back tomorrow with more, maybe more later on today. We'll see what I get done. But thank you very much for listening. And please write a review on Spotify, iTunes. Sign up for a paid subscription because I don't do this for free. It is free, but it ain't cheap. So sign up if you will. Be the change you want to see in the world. John Carroll, take us out, brother.
I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. We got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. Let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is a lie. Don't get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of a stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up. We got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up. You got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well, and it'll tell you not to run and hide. It says stand up.